Okay, thank you. It's a pleasure once more to welcome you, colleagues. We are going to have our press conference, and it's also an honor to welcome His Excellency Dr. Ibrahim Mayaki, who is the Chief Executive Officer of NEPAD, and he will be addressing you. Immediately after the opening we had this morning, he will just maybe give us an overview of what is going to happen during the day. And dear colleagues, immediately we could take questions, and let us now give the floor to His Excellency to address the press conference. You are welcome.
It's working, okay. No, thank you very much, Madam Tanku. And let me directly go to 5 quick points. The first one, as you know, we held this morning the NEPAD Heads of States Government Orientation Committee, which is a committee within the African Union architecture, spearheading the values and the mission of NEPAD. This orientation committee is composed of 20 members representing all the regions of the continent. Point number 2, NEPAD as an agency, an execution agency, a development agency, as you know, has been integrated into the African Union structures and processes, which means that whatever NEPAD does in terms of interventions on the ground are linked to what the African Union Commission does in terms of promoting the strategic frameworks that have been decided by the heads of states of the Union. Point number 3, the theme of the meeting this morning was about industrialization. Industrialization not looked at as a sector, but as a multi-sectoral dimension. Why did we choose this theme? For mainly 3 reasons. The first one is that the jobs that will need to be created for the huge proportion of our youth will need to come from industrial policies that are effective and implemented. Point number 2, in order to have a pertinent presence of Africa on the global scene, we need to add value to what we produce. And point number 3, in the long term, given the size of the African market, it is a huge opportunity for us to smartly, effectively, efficiently, coherently target industrial policies. And industrial policies will be reflected in big, micro, small, meso enterprises. And as you know, most of our economy is called informal economy. I don't like the term informal economy. I prefer the term popular economy. And that popular economy is populated by extremely brilliant entrepreneurs. So that potential of entrepreneurship has to be translated in a much more formal manner. Now, at the end of this meeting today, which saw the interventions of the Executive Secretary of ECA, who highlighted the challenges and the opportunities of industrialization, and after his presentation, we saw a concrete case related to Ethiopia. And as you know, Ethiopia has moved a long way in diversifying its economy and promoting policy dialogue on industrialization, and has realized enormous things in skills development. For example, they have more than 40,000 workers trained in Kaizen, which is a sound methodology in order to increase productivity. So, and we had the presentation of the President of the African Development Bank, who announced that the support that the African Development Bank will give in what relates to the promotion of industrialization in a very concrete manner, in infrastructure, in logistics, etc. Finally, I would like to emphasize the fact that the African Union Commission is a very strong supporter of the role we play, and we wouldn't be able, as the NEPAD agency, to get the results we have if we didn't have this support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency. I will now open the floor for questions, please. May I? How do we go? We'll start from here. Where is the microphone? You present yourself, your press organ, and you ask your question.
Yeah. Yes, thanks, ma'am. Ralph Niemeyer, EU Chronicle. Mr. Chairman, where does it leave us for the negotiations with the European Partnership Agreement? What you just said to us now, how can you envision this to be enhanced in these negotiations? Thank you.
Thank you. Let's have the next question right in front, please.
Thank you. Rodrigue Guerreira from the New Times. Honorable, NEPAD has been criticized for some time to work at a snail pace, mostly because of the financial constraints. And at this level, what do you expect from heads of state to make you really go towards the realization of your agenda? Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give the opportunity to others who are behind too. Please, someone should take the mic.
My name is Eugene Anangwe, KTN News. My question is that on the program there was a mention that the issue in South Sudan would feature in your conversations and the impact of this conflict in achieving your goals. Would you mind sharing some light in this line? Thank you.
We'll take the last one here before we go for the second round. Please give it to André. Yeah.
Merci. Je m'appelle André Gakwaya, Rwanda News Agency et journal Grand Lac Hebdo. Docteur, NEPAD a certainement fait de bonnes réalisations permettant de pouvoir procéder à la transformation et à améliorer la valeur ajoutée des produits de l'agroalimentaire. Est-ce que vous pourriez nous reprendre un peu ces bonnes réalisations du NEPAD au niveau de la transformation du continent et de l'industrialisation? Merci.
Merci, Andrew. Okay, Excellency, you have the floor to respond to those questions. I will take another round of questions. Thank you.
The first question is related to trade and to the economic partnership agreements, and I guess, but I might be wrong, but you are linking it to the Brexit issue somehow. If not, well, it's okay. One of the challenges that Dr. Lopez highlighted in his presentation regarding industrialization, one of the challenges he highlighted was trade. And he mentioned a very right issue, which is Africa is a late comer, and most of the countries that have industrialized have done so through a certain form of protectionism. And that protectionism continues. I was giving the example of the agricultural subsidies, which are supposed to have ended in the European Union, but are coming back under a disguised manner for exactly the same purpose, which is a purpose of protection. So Africa needs to think smartly about protection if we want to construct regional markets, and within these regional markets have a learning curve regarding competitiveness, and then move to the other layer, which is our presence on the global scene. Now, the economic partnerships agreements, as you know, have been differently renegotiated within the continent, according to the different regional economic communities. And if we take the case of ECOWAS, it is still a reticent process, because as you know, Nigeria has taken a position which is quite a critical position. So we need to be careful for two reasons. Because we have objective of industrialization that need to take into account smart protection. Point number two, we need to think in terms of long-term construction of our regional markets. So the EPA negotiations need to be framed within these two principles. The other question which was asked regarding what can we expect from the heads of states? The three quick issues. The political leadership of a continent has clearly embraced key priorities. And these priorities are all of them linked to regional integration. Because we know that the optimal solutions to our national problems are not at national level, they are at regional level. Whether it is about trade, whether it is about education, energy, transport. So the issue of cross-boundary projects in infrastructure is a key issue. During this meeting, President Zuma requested that we elaborate a report on how we are going to use the funds that were negotiated and committed during FOCAC, not only for national projects, but for regional projects. Because regional projects are the projects in infrastructure that will really boost the connectivity within the continent. So one thing that we request from the heads of states is to be champions of these regional projects that will really accelerate the connectivity of the continent. And as we are in Rwanda, you know that EAC, the East African Community, has really embraced very strongly that attitude, that approach, and that strategy. The second issue is to spend more time discussing development issues and economic issues. These are the issues that really are essential for the populations of this continent. What do the populations really want? They want access to school, access to vaccine, access to health services, access to water, access to energy. These are the most important questions. And these questions evidently are, need to be looked at through governance systems, I mean sound planning systems, etc. But they need to be also looked at through pertinent strategies that are designed at the continental level. And there are many of them that have been designed. The CADEP, the STISAs, the EAP on environment, etc. So on the one hand, this support to regional integration projects and the leadership, and on the other hand, that necessity, which is absolutely crucial now, to really have sound systems in order to move on development issues and not lose time on political issues, but not in the positive sense of a word. So I think development issues and economic issues are extremely important and should take a very relevant space. About KTM news and the issue of South Sudan, I do not want to comment on this issue because it was not part of our meeting. And there are many senior officials of a commission who are much more competent than I am in order to respond to this question. So I will skip it because I'm not competent enough. The other question was about the added value in agricultural transformation. You see, in 2003, in Maputo, when the African Union decides to put agricultural transformation as a priority, all our partners and all the donors are telling us, forget about agriculture because you won't get any triggering effect for development if you invest in agriculture. This was 2003. So we need to recognize the vision that the heads of state had, contrary to the global opinion, in order to insert agriculture as a priority. And this is what led to the design of CADEP, the Comprehensive Agricultural Development Program for Africa. And this is what has led now to the fact that within the continent, we have 39 national investment plans of agriculture. And these national plans of investment in agriculture are opened, and this is the good news, they are open to the private sector so that we add value to what we produce. So agribusiness is an integral part of the national investment plans of agriculture, and we conceive the private sector not only as an external private sector, but as also a domestic private sector. And as a matter of fact, the first dimension of a private sector resides in the small-scale farmers. When the small-scale farmers are enabled to think at agriculture as a business, then you trigger real agricultural transformation. Okay.
Thank you, Excellency Dr. Mayaki. Let's take the second round of questions. Let's bring the microphone on this side now. Yeah.
Merci, je m'appelle Badi Banga, journaliste de Mama Radio en République démocratique du Congo. Monsieur le directeur, deux questions précises. La première, comment, selon vous, la révolution industrielle est possible en Afrique dès lors qu'on sait que l'Afrique demeure le continent les moins éclairés, pas d'électricité donc en abondance. Ma deuxième question, c'est celle de savoir où en êtes-vous exactement avec vos projets sous-régionaux et c'est dans le cadre des infrastructures et quel en est le budget investi dans ces travaux. Merci.
Thank you. Can you pass on? Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Maggie from Rwanda TV. My question is about industrialization. How are we going to achieve our goals if the private sector is not yet developed to the level where it's supposed to move industrialization to the next level?
Can you repeat your question and present yourself? He didn't get you right.
Maggie Mutesi from Rwanda TV. My question is about the private sector to achieve our goals of industrialization. How are we going to do that when the private sector in most of the African countries is still weak?
Yeah.
Next, please. Pass the mic. Okay, go ahead.
Oui, je suis Solange Gwinja, journaliste de la RTNC, République démocratique du Congo. Je voulais rebondir avec la question de mon confrère, mais je voulais mettre l'accent sur la réhabilitation des routes des dessertes agricoles parce qu'il y a beaucoup de la production. Je donne l'exemple de mon pays. Il y a la difficulté d'amener le produit qu'on a récolté parce qu'il y a un manque des routes des dessertes agricoles. Est-ce qu'il y a un financement propre que le NEPAD met pour la réhabilitation de ces routes? Et aussi, je voulais savoir, est-ce qu'il y a les opportunités pour les jeunes entrepreneurs qui veulent que NEPAD puisse les appuyer dans leurs activités?
Merci. Est-ce que vous pouvez passer le micro derrière vous, s'il vous plaît?
Merci beaucoup. Je m'appelle François Ndengwe de Hommes d'Afrique et Femmes d'Afrique Magazine. Ma question, docteur Mayaki, je crois qu'on vous doit beaucoup de respect en Afrique pour ce que vous avez fait du NEPAD. Et que quand vous avez pris le NEPAD n'était pas ce que vous l'avez fait. Vous avez apporté un leadership aussi bien en termes d'idées que de management. Alors, je voudrais vous poser, si vous permettez, deux petites questions. Vous venez de parler du CADEP. Et je sais que cette année de l'Union africaine, c'est l'année de Human Rights, avec un focus particulier sur les femmes. Et vous avez, dans le cadre du CADEP, vous avez le programme de Rural Futures. Et dans le Rural Futures que vous aviez lancé avec un certain succès, il y a le rôle des femmes. Alors, qu'est-ce que le NEPAD, est-ce que vous pouvez nous donner un bilan à mi-parcours au niveau de l'action de NEPAD en faveur des femmes agricoles, puisque nous insistons cette année sur le rôle des femmes et les droits des femmes après l'année précédente qui était aussi là-dessus. Qu'est-ce que le NEPAD peut faire pour les femmes rurales en Afrique dans le cadre du CADEP? Et la deuxième question est au niveau du financement de l'industrialisation de notre continent. Dans le contexte monétaire et financier actuel, est-ce que vous pensez que c'est un contexte qui est favorable au financement de l'industrialisation d'un grand continent comme le nôtre? Sinon, quelles sont les modifications aussi bien financières que dans la structure monétaire interne de notre continent qui peuvent nous permettre d'avoir un ensemble financier, des marchés financiers qui financent de façon autonome et durable notre industrialisation? Merci.
Thank you, Francois. Let's first allow the Excellency to answer this question, and if we are lucky that he has more time, we can take another round of questions. Okay, Excellency, you have the floor.
Okay, merci. Alors, la première question, c'est est-ce que la révolution industrielle est possible sans énergie? Je crois que vous avez la réponse à la question. Il est évident que ce qu'on peut appeler la révolution industrielle n'est pas possible sans énergie. Alors, ce n'est pas la vocation des 54 pays africains, pour chacun d'entre eux, d'avoir une politique industrielle. Il faut que ça soit quand même clair. Parce que pour asseoir les fondations d'une politique industrielle, il faut pouvoir prendre en compte un certain nombre d'opportunités. Et ces opportunités-là ne sont pas valables pour les 54 pays. Premier point. Deuxième point, nous avons des débuts d'industrialisation très importants. Et d'ailleurs, la CEA nous dit, par exemple, statistiquement, que la part de la production industrielle dans le produit national brut est plus importante que la part de l'agriculture. Ce n'était pas le cas il y a 20 ans. Alors, pourquoi c'est arrivé? C'est arrivé parce que il y a un certain nombre d'industries qui ont pu être établies, non seulement grâce à des politiques appropriées, mais aussi grâce à des éléments comme l'énergie. Si vous prenez la production énergétique en Éthiopie, quand le Premier ministre Meles Zenawi arrive au pouvoir, elle est à peu près 400 gigawatts. Aujourd'hui, elle est de 8000. Elle a été multipliée par 20. Et ça a été un facteur essentiel dans le développement industriel de l'Éthiopie. Deuxième point, aujourd'hui, dans l'ensemble des projets d'infrastructure que nous avons à l'intérieur du PIDA, les projets en énergie constituent une très bonne part de l'ensemble de ces projets, des projets d'infrastructure en général. Et beaucoup de ces projets sont financés sur des ressources domestiques, pas toujours sur des partenariats publics-privés. Même si, pour le financement de l'énergie, l'attraction de financement privé est beaucoup plus facile que dans d'autres secteurs, comme les routes, par exemple. Donc il y a une volonté très ferme de l'ensemble des chefs d'État d'accorder à l'énergie cette priorité. La troisième question, c'est la question du mix énergétique. Il est évident que nous devons consacrer une importance notoire, c'est une tautologie, une importance claire aux énergies renouvelables, mais nous serons obligés, par exemple, d'utiliser aussi le charbon. Parce qu'il n'y a pas de raison que nous n'utilisions pas le charbon lorsque nous avons un avantage comparatif à utiliser le charbon dans notre mix énergétique. Donc l'énergie, oui, absolument. Dans le cadre des politiques industrielles, absolument. Mais surtout et fondamentalement dans une perspective qui soit une perspective régionale et pas seulement nationale. Alors, la deuxième question que vous avez posée, c'est par rapport aux projets régionaux. L'essentiel de ce que nous faisons au niveau du NEPAD a trait à des projets régionaux. Notre porte d'entrée dans le cadre des infrastructures est toujours la porte d'entrée des communautés économiques régionales. Nous ne faisons rien en infrastructure qui n'est pas une dimension régionale, que ce soit au niveau de la SADC, que ce soit au niveau de la CEDEAO, que ce soit au niveau de la CEAC, tout ce que nous faisons en infrastructure a une dimension régionale. Il y a un concept que nous promouvons qui est extrêmement important, c'est le concept de corridor de développement. Parce que la question n'est pas de faire une route pour faire une route, la question est de faire une route pour qu'elle puisse connecter des marchés, aider, comme vous le disiez tout à l'heure, des producteurs à évacuer et à vendre leur production. Et les corridors de développement, c'est un condensé d'énergie, de trains, de routes, de fibres optiques. Et ce sont ces corridors de développement qui vont vraiment stimuler le développement régional. Donc, projets régionaux, oui, dans le cadre de corridors de développement. Jusqu'à présent, nous savions comment gérer des projets nationaux, nous ne savions pas vraiment comment gérer des projets régionaux. Mais donc nous sommes dans une courbe d'apprentissage de gestion des projets régionaux, parce qu'un projet régional implique 2, 3, 4 pays, et évidemment vous avez des soft issues qui viennent se greffer à la gestion de ces projets et qui ont trait à l'harmonisation de cadres régulatoires qui ne sont pas exactement, de cadres de régulation qui ne sont pas également les mêmes. Mais nous avançons dans ce domaine. Et l'Afrique avance véritablement dans ce domaine. Il y a 10 ans, nous n'avions pas un cadre stratégique continental. Il y a 10 ans, nous n'avions pas de priorité régionale en termes d'infrastructure. Il y a 10 ans, nous ne pouvions pas réfléchir à un corridor Abidjan-Lagos qui a déjà démarré. Vous voyez ? Il y a 10 ans, nous ne réfléchissions pas au corridor nord-sud. Maintenant, vous pouvez aller du Cap au Caire par route. Et le seul segment qui manque, c'est un segment d'un peu plus de 5 km à l'intérieur du Soudan. Il y a 10 ans, ce n'était pas pensable. Donc il y a aussi des progrès qui se font, il y a des obstacles, mais il y a des progrès. The second question is about the role of private sector in industrialization. When we say private sector, we tend always to look at formal enterprises. Those who are working in the popular, informal economy are private sector. And they do not look for a support from the state. They dig into their potential in order really to have an entrepreneurial activity. So that potential can be optimized if it is really translated into the formal economy. Secondly, small-scale farmers are private investors. Small-scale farmers invest more than all the governments of the continent in agriculture. The estimate, according to FAO, of the investment of small-scale farmers is, in Africa, $100 billion a year. $100 billion a year. So they are the ones who are feeding us. So imagine if you transform them in micro and meso entrepreneurs, the type of agricultural transformation that we'll have. And that allows me to get to the question that was asked by Mr. Ndengwe. The majority of these small-scale farmers are women. And this is why tapping into the potential of women as entrepreneurs in rural areas is a fundamental factor for agricultural transformation. And regarding NEPAD, as you know, we had a NEPAD Spanish fund of several million euros. which targeted about 500,000 women entrepreneurs in urban and rural areas. And this has had a very concrete impact in 37 countries. So we did it. We drew lessons from that because it had an impact. And the lessons that we drew from that, we want to disseminate them in other regions and the countries that have not yet benefited. So it is closely linked to our Rural Futures program. In our Rural Futures programs, women have a huge importance, but also the territorial dimension is very important. Because up to now, up to 5-6 years ago, Africa really concentrated after structural adjustment on macroeconomic policies and sectoral policies. But we forgot about the territories, the territorial planning. So what we try to do for Rural Futures is to reinsert territorial planning in view of transformation in rural areas with a huge priority given to the majority of the small-scale farmers who are women. So that is fundamental, and this is why also we have designed a program which is on gender, climate change adaptation, and agriculture, which is already present in about 10 countries, on which we have also impacts that we want to disseminate moreover. Il y a une question d'un journaliste de la République démocratique du Congo sur les routes de desserte rapide. On a parlé de transformation agricole. La transformation agricole est multisectorielle. Ça touche l'éducation, la santé et évidemment les infrastructures. Évidemment, le rôle des routes rurales, vous l'avez bien souligné, est tout à fait capital. Mais je voudrais rajouter un point supplémentaire. Dans tous nos pays, on connaît un processus de décentralisation poussé. Ce processus de décentralisation amène à une délocalisation du pouvoir du niveau central au niveau local. Et ce niveau local, s'il a les ressources nécessaires, peut mieux répondre aux besoins locaux. Et les routes rurales sont des besoins locaux. La transformation agricole est une question locale. Hein. Et donc l'appui à cette dimension locale est tout à fait essentiel. Et vous avez raison de souligner cette question par rapport aux routes rurales. Alors, les jeunes entrepreneurs. Les jeunes entrepreneurs, 75% de la population africaine a moins de 25 ans. Les cohortes de jeunes de 18 à 25 ans qui viennent sur le marché de l'emploi en Afrique, il y a déjà 300 millions de jeunes africains qui sont avec nous et pour qui il faudra trouver un emploi. Et vu le potentiel que nous avons en termes de ressources, en termes de terres arables, il suffit de créer les enabling conditions. Et je passerai à la question du financement après. Il suffit de créer les enabling conditions pour vraiment transformer cette jeunesse en entrepreneuriat. Alors, nous ne pourrons pas faire comme nous faisions avant. C'est-à-dire, nous ne pourrons pas continuer à définir des processus uniquement de haut en bas. Il faudra absolument que nous réfléchissions à combiner des processus de haut en bas avec des processus de bas en haut. Donc la manière dont l'Afrique devra être gérée dans les 10, 15, 20 années à venir devra, en termes de système de gouvernance, laisser une place aux jeunes dans la définition des politiques parce qu'ils savent exactement ce que sont leurs besoins. Et vous avez énormément de jeunes aujourd'hui qui reviennent en Afrique. On parle beaucoup de migration et de migrants vers ailleurs, mais il y a beaucoup de jeunes qui reviennent de la diaspora pour créer des entreprises et qui sont des modèles de jeunes entrepreneurs. Alors, sur la question de M. Ndengwe par rapport à Rural Futures, je crois que j'ai répondu à cette question-là. Maintenant, sur le financement de l'industrialisation. Alors, il y a deux sources de financement possibles. Hein. Il y a les ressources nationales, les ressources domestiques, hein, Et puis, il y a les ressources extérieures. Alors, comme disait un professeur d'Oxford, Paul Collier, quand il voit la multiplication de fonds souverains africains qui investissent en dehors de l'Afrique, ces fonds souverains envoient un mauvais message aux potentiels investisseurs étrangers pour investir en Afrique. Donc, point 1. Point 2, lorsqu'on voit les niveaux de retour d'investissement aujourd'hui, comparés au monde avancé, entre guillemets, les retours d'investissement sont plus importants en Afrique qu'ailleurs. Point 3, où le bas blesse, c'est au niveau des risques, parce que la perception qu'il y a des risques est une perception exagérée. Mais exagérée ou pas, cette perception est réelle et donc nous devons travailler à déconstruire cette perception. Alors comment nous pouvons faire? Il faut que nous démontrions à travers des banques d'investissement publiques que nous accordons une priorité à l'industrialisation. Et ces banques d'investissement public doivent absolument viser une niche, et cette niche, c'est les petites et moyennes entreprises. Et ce sont ces petites et moyennes entreprises, que ce soit dans l'agro-industrie ou que ce soit dans la manufacture, qui vont sceller les fondations d'une industrialisation qui sera une industrialisation durable. Et évidemment, cela entraînera évidemment la nécessité de former ces entrepreneurs et de les accompagner. Donc, le secteur privé, au vu de l'impact qu'auront les activités développées par ces agents qui seront soutenus par des banques d'investissement public, évidemment viendra s'associer à des expériences qui réussissent. Mais d'abord, il faut que les États démontrent par eux-mêmes qu'ils mettent de l'argent public dans la promotion de leur industrialisation. I think let's take two and when we.
We want to take just two. There are too many hands here. I don't know now what to do. I'm in a difficult situation. New African. Can you have the mic to New African magazine? Yeah, one. And my brother there in glasses. Behind you. Fair like me in complexion.
Thank you, Dr. Mayaki. My name is Regina from the New African Magazine and the New African Woman. Part of the question you've already answered, so I won't touch that. I was going to ask you about this NEPAD Spanish Fund for Women's Empowerment in terms of the current summit's theme. But just if you can just make a comment about the Maputo Protocol, because we're discussing women's rights at this summit, and why some countries still haven't ratified that protocol. If you can just give a brief comment on that. But I've also noticed that since we've been here the past 3 days, there's been quite some emphasis on Africa reorientating towards industrialization kind of programs. Can you just shed some light or comment on how you, the issue of valuing human capital?
Okay, can you pass the microphone to the colleague?
Thanks for the opportunity for the last question. China will host the G20 summit in September this year, and one of the agenda for discussions during the event will be discussing Africa's industrialization. And China will also use this chance to promote cooperation among the G20 members to help Africa and the least developed countries in driving the industrialization process through investment and infrastructure improvement. And what are your expectations on the part of the AU for the event? Thanks.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. I hope you understand my difficulty. Let's give the opportunity to Dr. Mayaki to respond to those questions. Thank you.
Okay. The theme of the summit is extremely opportune and pertinent. And as a matter of fact, it should be a constant reference, human rights and the rights of women. this continent will not develop unless it promotes very strongly the rights of a woman. This is the lesson that we need to draw from our own cultural values. If we look at our cultural values from east to west to south, the role of a woman has always been preeminent. So modernization should accelerate that dimension and give more rights, more place to the woman in all the policies that we frame. So when there is that reference to gender mainstreaming, which is a bit a complex kind of expression, what we should aim at is when we talk about people-centered development, we should first think about woman-centered development. So woman-centered development is an expression which is more impactful than gender mainstreaming. So this is extremely important. Now, regarding to the Maputo Protocol, I'm not sure of what I'm going to say, but I think that the speed of the ratification is a bit higher than the speed of ratification of other protocols. I'm not sure. Maybe you have. It's true. Okay. So it means that there is a strong motivation towards this instrument, and I think it is a real good news. But let me reiterate again that the fact that people-centered development has to be, in order to be concrete, it has to be woman-centered development. And it directly links to the issue that you were talking about on human capital. The skills is one of the challenges, as Carlos was saying, Carlos Lopez, is one of the challenges for industrialization. Africa trains, for example, less than 30,000 engineers a year. China trains 300,000 engineers a year. So we need to be mindful of the fact that if we do not have a human capital, I mean, our policies, for example, in industrialization, will be halted. Now, the G20, before referring to the G20, I would like to refer to FOCAC. As you know, China made a commitment in FOCAC about investment, notably in infrastructure. And I think that this commitment is welcome. Now it has to be implemented, and a significant part of a commitment needs to go to regional infrastructure projects. This is very important. Now, we count on China to continue promoting and advocating for the industrialization of a continent. It has been part of the discussions that were held between the Sherpas of the G20. I think it comes at the right moment. Africa is the youngest continent today. China, Europe are aging countries. So it is important to look at Africa as a partner for long-term sustainability in terms of world governance. The world will not prosper and be stable unless Africa is stable and prosper. Thank you.
Thank you very much, colleagues, for coming to this press conference. We want to appreciate the time of His Excellency Ibrahim Mayaki, Chief Executive Officer of the NEPAD. Please note that Dr. Mayaki is very open to interviews. I would like to introduce Ricardo, my colleague. If you have any interview requests regarding live one-on-one studio, Ricardo will be there to facilitate for him anytime during the summit period. Thank you for coming, and thank you again, Excellency.